Believe me, I started to say it makes us look good or you guys look good, but you guys really do look good, and I like to see genuine disagreement. Richard Brown, 824 Sessions Lane in Kenner. I wanted to come up and state why I was concerned about the introduction of the ordinance that the city or someone wanted to, I guess Mike Segura sponsored it, wanted to add to the agenda. And those of you who know me or have followed me know that I just have a thing about adding last-minute ordinances and resolutions to the agenda at the meeting unless it is practically an emergency. There's got to be a real good reason for it. And that was my concern here. And I didn't specifically object because when I came up to find out more about what it was about, I already knew because of the vote on amending the agenda that there were at least 2 council members opposed to it. I knew it would take a unanimous vote to add it, so there was no need for me to say anything. But I just want to urge the council members and the administration, Mayor Zahn, want to urge the council and the administration, please don't add things to the agenda at the council meeting unless it is something really critical, really important, really time sensitive, really urgent, and something that really couldn't have been put on previously with due diligence. I'm not taking a position one way or the other on the merits of this particular ordinance. My concern is that with it not having been on the agenda and being introduced here, people who look at the agenda for a meeting, people who looked at tonight's agenda also scroll down, or at least I do and my friends do. We look at all the items that are on here for first reading. We know all of these items on here for first reading are coming up at the next meeting. If this ordinance had been introduced tonight, it never appeared on any agenda. The public would not know it exists until 3 days before the next meeting. That's just not right. That's not transparent. That's not giving the public notice. If we had a newspaper publishing every day, maybe it would get out. So that's my concern. I will probably object frequently when there's an attempt to introduce something of substance at the meeting. And I just urge the council to try not to do it. I have one other comment, if I can make it.
You have a minute, Mr. Brown.
I think the mayor wants to respond. And I actually wanted to direct this comment to the mayor. There was the discussion earlier about the lawsuit filed by the 12 city employees against the city to set aside the charter provision that prohibits political activity by directors. And I believe the mayor stated that people had been warned by the previous city attorney, by Keith Conley, that doing that would be unconstitutional. And I remember all of that very vividly because I was involved in it. And Keith Conley's position and a few others was simply that the city could not restrict the political activity of non-civil service employees. But that's wrong. And as the federal judge in this case has made clear, the city can restrict it. The problem with this particular restriction was the way it was done. It was the manner of the restriction.
Right. Exactly.
But Keith Conley's warning was
agree.
that you just can't do it. They're not civil service. You have no right to restrict their political activity. The city does have that right, and I think this federal judge made it plain.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Mayor Zahn.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, and that's what I was saying is unconstitutional according to the federal judge. But let me take the full blame instead of the 5 council members that put it on the agenda. At my urging, I asked them, could you all please, well, the city attorney asked them, could you please put this on the agenda? It was going to go on the agenda for first reading, which would mean that we would not vote on it until December next council meeting.
21st, I think, yeah.
Right. The reason for the importance for it to go on is I don't want to lose the piece of property. So I'm going to stand by and I'm going to take the blame and not let them take the blame because they can put it on. I asked them to do it because it was very, very important to make sure we secure that piece of property for a future Hispanic Resource Center or a future resource center, like I told you before. So that's the reason we did it. At that council meeting, I feel that it is extremely transparent because people would have a chance to come to that council meeting on December 20th or 21st, whatever it is, to express their views if they don't want it. So it wasn't something that was going to go on the agenda tonight, be voted on.
Oh, I know that,
I mean,
yeah.
we see resolutions going all the time. And look, if you don't like it like that, don't go to a parish council meeting, because there's numerous ones that come from the floor, from all districts, which they serve as mayors. They put a lot on. And look, I'm one of them that did it. There's a lot that's going to go on. So it's something that's common. It's not something that's, sinister or being cloaked any kind of way. It's something that's done to run government efficiently. But it's, don't blame them.
And that
Blame me.
does happen. I'm
Blame
glad
me for
you
being
said that.
efficient.
I want to make one quick response to something you said. It reminded me of something. Thank you. And this is really directed, I guess, to the clerk, but the open meetings law also does say when you are amending the agenda at the meeting to add something to it, you're also supposed to state the reason for having to add it, why it was not on the original agenda, and that
I just did.
was not done. You just did.
Well,
so
I
thank
don't
you.
think they got a chance to do it.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Mr. Washington, I think, spoke earlier. Pastor Jackie Brown Crockerham, name and address.
A long night. Good evening. Pastor Jacqueline Brown Cockerham, 2610 Decatur Street, Apartment A, Kenner 70062. And my concern here is about the airport expansions area or project. Right now, there's a sound wall at Decatur Street, which I found out on yesterday was only put on Decatur Street because that's where the lady who complained lived. Well, the lady who complained is me. And my complaint was for everyone, every area along that canal, the activity of that canal. It wasn't just about me, because I don't have to go to work in the morning. I don't have to attend to babies at night when they were awakened by the noise. The sound wall, the temporary sound wall is up, and it is temporarily ugly. I spoke with Mr. Charles Pruitt on yesterday and asked him to make sure that the fencing that was put around it, because you have these big long boulders. Y'all gonna hear me? So y'all know how to address me later. Yeah. Yeah, because I taught school for 38 and a half years. I just like your undivided attention. I know it's late. Okay, yeah, because I've been listening to everything and everybody. But anyway, the long concrete barriers, plus these containers of buckets where you have poles cemented in them, half of them are leaning this way, half that way, and some are stationary. It looks horrible. So my concern was that they would put, rather than that see-through orange fencing, that they would put something that's non-transparent to cover that bottom section, maybe, a darker color, so that you won't see all of that ugliness. I was told that that was something that would have to go through Kenner. And I apologize, Councilman Carroll, for not getting to you sooner, but the conversation went on yesterday evening, and I've had a very, very busy 48 hours almost. But anyway, my concern is that you would at least address and approve, because Mr. Pruitt said it has to come from you, the covering of that bottom section with the fencing, because it's just horrible. It defaces the neighborhood worse than the other structure that's up there. And one reason they put it up there was because the children had started to play on the concrete
30 seconds,
block.
Ms. Crockerham.
And of course, they could have been injured, but the ugliness is there. We were gonna try to do something just at the end of the block so that it wouldn't look so badly, but it needs to be covered. And I'm asking you all to do that as expediently as possible so that we can at least look at our neighborhood in a different manner than that ugliness that we see right now. So thank you very much. If you have any questions or concerns or promises, I think it's something that you can do since a dog park is more expensive. Just give us the fencing that we need.
Thank you.
You're quite welcome. Thank you. I have a blessing.
Miss Trapp, I believe, is it?
I don't see anybody.
I may be mispronouncing it. Baya or Baya? She may be Mr. Chris Willard.
No, he said no.
Well, I think that's it. Motion, second.